Cosmetic family.
Thanks for joining us on the Cosmetic Podcast.
Cosmetic means being a person or thing that gives rise to a phenomenon that is dynamic or energizing.
With tackling topics and telling the truth.
I'm Rodrigo Ross.
I'm Keith Benson.
So today we are talking about releasing your inner superhero. This whole idea of how do you become more fearless, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brave.
So what would be your leadership power?
Saying what I said.
Saying what you said.
Yes, which, is maybe not a good superpower sometimes. But
don't you say what you say?
I do. I said what I said, and sometimes I say the things that people didn't think I should say, but I said it anyway, and I'll say it again.
All right, well.
I said what I said.
Fearless you gonna be.
That's my superpower.
So that whole thing of overcoming fear, that requires this growth mindset.
Yeah.
And everybody they're not equipped to be able to do that. I mean, that's something. I think it takes practice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think people have to really believe that they can do it, right? So the whole process of facing fears is nothing more than exposure. And exposure involves gradually and repeatedly getting into these situations where you'll have to face your fear until you start to feel less anxious, and that things are less dangerous. Now, I don't know if it'll ever make the fear go away because that's your natural response, but you can practice those things and grow, but you got to believe that you can.
That's the thing. You got to really believe that. And I see, because sometimes we want something more for someone than they do themselves.
I've been there.
Yeah. And it's hey, this is really simple to overcome. Well, that's simple for you.
For you? It ain't simple for me.
Not for me.
That's very true because, sometimes people say, well, I wish I would have said this and and I'm thinking to myself, well, why didn't you just say it? I don't understand, say it.
But sometimes people say that they can overcome something, and they don't really so you got to really be aware of the different fear that's in your life, and be able to know that and be able, so that way you're able to face it.
Okay, so there are different types of fear. There's no universal theory of fear. Didn't that sound really?
That sounded
smart?
Good. Well, people want to put some universal fears because if most people are afraid to get on stage and speak.
I'm not.
No. I'll talk a little bit.
Well, yeah, I know.
You're not talking.
We're moving on.
Right. But is that place of that, if getting on stage is one of those things that is a fear of yours, it's you got to have that willingness to be vulnerable.
Right.
And so, how do you practice that? I was talking to somebody the other day about, just their presence and, speaking, find your own space.
Right.
And because it's not the stage at 100,000 people that you got to speak to. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, you just practice is that, hey, just your one-on-one, maybe with your supervisor.
Yeah.
That may be, in the staff meeting. I'm going to own a piece of staff meeting so that I can know how to, speak out front. It doesn't, again, you don't have to be center stage with 100,000 folks around.
Yeah, and believe in your authenticity, right? There's no one else like you, and you bring all these great, unique qualities, and so, lean on that to kind of give or focus on that to get past some of the fears.
Yeah, so this is other part of adapting a mindset of gratitude. So whenever you feel fear, just try to be grateful about something. I know. Okay. For me, I seek out people to be able to help me with that process. Mm-hmm. I'll also I'm thankful for, the different things that are in my life. Mm-hmm. And so when this place of gratitude comes, this place of fear comes, what is something that I can think about to be able to overcome what I'm feeling?
The things you're thankful for.
Yeah.
You're welcome. That, me, right?
Well, I don't think you can place words in people's mouths like that and then that be the truth.
Oh, that's not how that. Oh, well, but it's a good theory.
That is a very good theory. That is a very good theory.
It is a very good theory. I mean, a way to kind of shift your mind and be okay, let me not focus on the thing that I'm scared of or the things that I may have to quote unquote lose, right? Let me focus in on all of the things that I have, right? The things that I can be excited about. A space of gratitude.
Yes.
I like it.
And sometimes it's that sharing with others. So you got this fear that you have on the inside, especially in the workplace, because not you're the same person at work and that's home. It's because you're only one individual, but you have a way that you appear at work, and then there's your home life.
Yeah.
But in this workspace, when we talk about overcoming fear, some of that is that being vulnerable to be able to share that with somebody that, hey, I'm not comfortable in this space right here, but I really do want to grow.
Yeah.
I mean, at least that gives, especially if you're talking one-on-one with your supervisor, that gives that person a place to be able to support you, help you to be able to grow in that space right there. Also, so that they don't push you over the edge as well.
Right. Like they let you kind of tackle this thing at a speed that's acceptable for you. That's a really good concept, because I'm thinking if you were vulnerable like that and you did share with folks that you had a fear around a certain thing, I would think, or at least for me, if I heard that from a coworker, I would think, you know what, let me give them a little more grace in this space, or let me encourage them, or like when you're in church and somebody is speaking and they get choked up and everybody in the congregation, take your time. Take your time. Come on.
It's all right.
Right?
It's all right.
So maybe that would happen at work too.
Well, I like the word you use around grace. And so as a supervisor, knowing that somebody has, this fear maybe in this space right here, now is that, all right, let me just find this different way of maybe helping this person address that, or not even put them in that type of situation.
Right, because they're not ready.
Yeah, because sometimes you can push and they might just need a little nudge to help them out. So let's nudge a little bit, a little bit longer versus just pushing people.
Yeah, not even realizing, because that's not a fear yours. Like, you may really encourage someone, go up there and talk in front of all those people and they're falling apart inside. But you was like, oh, I didn't even know that was a fear of yours, because it's not a fear of mine. So I
had to be careful of that, because like I can do something on a whim and hey.
Oh, okay, no, I'm listening.
And so I don't need much notice to be able to say, get up in front of a crowd. But I may need, if I want that out of someone else, I need, from my lens, I got to prep them. Maybe that's 2 weeks earlier.
Yeah.
Versus, like, you can give it to me give me 5 minutes and I can figure it out, what I need to say up there.
Yeah, that's so very true. Like, some people, they need a little more time to process. They got to script things out. They don't speak extemporaneously. You saw what I did there. You saw that word, right? Extemporaneous.
I ain't going to ask you to spell it.
I'm gonna Google it right now. Hold on.
So, but one of the things that you can do to help overcome this is read books. One of the books that I read a while back was John Maxwell's, one of my favorite leadership authors there. Failing Forward, and he has all these different concepts around what it means to fail forward.
Yes.
And so when we think about falling or failing, we think about it probably from more of a backwards standpoint.
Yeah.
But John has said, "No, we're gonna lean into this thing right here." So when we get into these situations, we're gonna fall forward, because we're gonna continue to move on and not stay in the same place that we are. We're not gonna stay on the ground, but we're gonna keep moving forward.
Yeah. So the reality is, if you really had to think about it, all of the things that you had to learn in life, even starting as a baby, you learned them by failing. But then as you get into adulthood, you become failure averse, right? Like, it's so catastrophic when you don't succeed at something. But there's no baby that just gets up one day and decides, all right, I'm going to walk today. Like, no, they fumble around, they fall, they bump around. But then eventually they face that fear. And, well, no, babies are kind of fearless.
One of the things that we have is that we begin to learn.
Yeah, well,
and
when you know better.
Right, right. So for me, I'm not the best of a swimmer, right? So
I feel the story coming on.
What I realized, I love the water. I go to a splash park and all of that right there.
In the shallow window.
Hey, I'm 5'11". I know if that end down there says 11 feet,
I'm not gonna go there.
What I understand is that 11 feet is a little bit taller than me.
Just a little bit. But you are Olympic champion in the 3 feet of water.
Olympic champion.
Okay.
And you need me to come out a slide into the water and it's 4 feet. I understand that. I just hold my breath, close my eyes. When I hit the ground, I pop right back up.
You can face that fear.
I can face that fear all day long.
That 11-foot fear, though, you got to work on.
Yeah, that one that when I was learning how to swim and she said jump over the edge. I said, it took.
Were you that person that's just kind of hovering?
It only took about 30 minutes to jump over.
My 30 minutes of that poor woman's life she'll never get back.
Yes,
waiting on you to jump off that thing.
And we're going to move on.
Well, okay then. Well, more than just identifying what type of fear you have, there are also some steps that you have to go through, right, in order to kind of release this inner superhero and be fearless. One of them is, quite basically, you got to put the time in. You can't expect that you're just going to go from 0 to 100 and be fearless overnight without really practicing or really facing what it is that's making you fearful. There is this whole ideology around a journey to success, right? And it's critical that you use that as a learning tool, because it's going to help you see where you've made some progress, see where you still have some growth points, and keep pushing towards what you feel is your success.
And this is place of releasing control, right? And so sometimes when we have those fears, and we're just using the term fear. There's different names that you want to use, you can use for. But when we have these fears, we hold on to, as long as we can control this space, then my fear will not bubble up. People won't see that. Yeah. But sometimes we just got to release that and be to this place of vulnerable to let people know that, hey, I'm not perfect.
Right. This is making me uncomfortable. I'm a little nervous about this particular thing. Especially when you get into the leadership space, there are people who absolutely feel like there is a very deep correlation between how much you let people know that something is making you uncomfortable or fearful, and perceived perception of your ability to lead. And I think, some of the best leaders are able to balance that. Like you said, they can show that they're human, that they have fears, that they don't know everything about everything, but they're willing to face it and they're willing to admit and kind of grow through in public, because everyone is watching them, as opposed to those leaders who try and pretend like, oh no, I'm not scared of anything. I got it all, and I never make a mistake. And people are like, really? Are you sure? So, in this whole leadership space, I really do think that leaders, when you're learning to be fearless, you've got to kind of face that uneasiness of being transparent and letting people see, like, okay, this one is taking me a little off kilter.
Because at the end of the day, like, what's the worst case scenario? Like,
well, you could get fired or something.
Okay.
That's a pretty bad scenario.
But if you're doing the right things, like you have a fear, you're trying to overcome it, and you're not causing harm in the process.
That's true. And
like,
sometimes
what's
we
the
make
worst thing?
Yeah.
I might get embarrassed a little bit. Right?
That's terrible.
Okay, but it's
wait a minute. You don't think that's terrible?
If you're doing the right things?
To be embarrassed? Apparently you don't, because I've heard you sing and you do it in public and it doesn't seem to bother you.
And people thought it was majestic too.
It was not.
Yeah, majestic. But fear is something that you gotta face.
Yeah,
and then when you and then if you do fail, like, you can't then go back and point the finger. Like, pointing finger at someone, that does nobody any good.
Okay, so let's talk through, like, why would someone point a finger when they failed? How could that pop up?
Because maybe they got embarrassed and
so they want to take the line.
Yeah, deflect and put it off on somebody else. Well, I was doing the right thing, but Rodriga,
this sounds like something you said last week.
No, I would not point the finger at you. No.
What? You would point the whole hand.
No, I would not point the finger at you.
Okay.
Because failure is for the most part is going to be temporary.
Yeah.
Because especially as a leader, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to be perfect in all that you do.
Yeah.
So you got to see failure as temporary, and so that we can be able to move forward.
I guess the blessing and the curse is that as society speeds up and the speed of information, like, you're not hot stuff for very long. So if you have, right? Like, you're not in the limelight for very long. There'll be something in the next 24 hours.
Yeah, you failed. Trust me. Somebody the next 3 minutes they're gonna fail too, and your stuff be passing. So,
absolutely.
Like, live in this fearless space when you, especially in the workplace. Be bold so that you can be able to be innovative in that process.
Yeah.
Set some realistic expectations of yourself also. So you know that if you're not strong in this particular area, you know what? Don't focus on the weakness part of it. Focus in on the strengths. Because if you spend more time on working on things that you know that you're good at, that's going to automatically bring up the things that you may not be as good at.
Yeah, or make you even more uncertain of those because you know you didn't put the time in. Like, that's called leveraging your inherent strengths, your inherent confidence. There is something, right? Like, there are some people who probably feel confident about more things than others, but I would venture to say that there is at least one thing that everyone feels confident about. Like, leverage that confidence, that feeling you have, or that fearlessness around whatever that subject matter, and see if you can kind of transfer it to whatever this other thing is that's making you fearful. It's like, if you know how to ride a bike, okay, well then you can ride a stationary bike, or you can ride a bike that rides in the street, or you can ride a 10-speed, or you can, like, it's different bikes, but you understand the concepts of how to do that.
You know, one of the big things that we're in society right now today is that organizations and how fear, when we talk about fear and we talk about everyone making these organizational statements based on racism,
yes,
right?
Yes.
So before all of what has gone on over the past few months, there was only about a handful of organizations that may publicly say something.
Or even put the word racism, right? They would talk all around it.
Right. And so now it is just like a normal thing that people are putting out these statements now, is that people are feeling, you know, more bold to be able to put out these things. And so it is like, why hold back on those things? Why does it take an incident in order for you to get to that space right there?
Yeah, you know, and I would love to talk in depth with someone or an organization who was really fearful about putting out a statement like that, or calling a thing a thing. And then what were they fearful of? Because most of the time you don't want to do it because you figure this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is not going to happen, and these 17 other things are going to happen as well. But then when you really do it and you go back, did any of that stuff really happen? Like, I'd really love to go back and talk with these organizations. The things that made you so fearful, did any of it really come to pass? Did any of it transpire? So was your fear based in reality?
Right.
I don't know.
And unfortunately, it took an incident for people to make these big, bold statements.
Catastrophic. And so, a chain of catastrophic impact.
And so now it's about, all right, you made a statement. All right, what are your actions now? And
that's where the real fear comes. The fearlessness comes in, because it's more than just putting pretty flowery words to paper and, you know, some wordsmithing. Sometimes it is unlearning stuff. It means speaking out against held traditions. It means getting really uncomfortable. It means admitting some things. It means sometimes it may mean that there's a disconnect from people that you that's really endearing to you when you're trying to do and be what you say you're trying to do and be, and that is where fearlessness really jumps in.
So we got to be able to release that inner superhero that's within us, you know. And I love to find out from our listening audience, you know, what is your inner superhero power that you may have in this whole leadership space here?
Besides shoes, like mine is shoes.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that at another time. Yeah. Thank you for listening to Cosmetic,
where we're tackling topics and telling the truth.
Subscribe and listen to us weekly.
And don't be shy, give us a review.
And as always,
be dynamic,
be phenomenal,
be cosmetic.